I get asked a lot the question of what is my favorite video game of all time, and I've given many different answers to this question, both because my memory is terrible and because my current favorite video game continuously keeps changing. I've listed Transformers Fall of Cybertron as my favorite, as well as Smash 4 and Splatoon. All of these are fantastic games that I absolutely love, and are each awesome in their own right without a doubt, but there is one game that has always stuck out to me, and one that, regardless of what future games come out, will always have a close place to my heart. This game is Super Mario 64. Cliched, Mark! Shut up! It's personal anecdote time. In this video, I'm going to be sharing my experience with this absolutely amazing game. I have a very complicated history with this game. Up until very recently, I never actually had the chance to play the original game itself, as instead my fascination with the game came from spectating. My family had some friends that we used to visit all the time, and they owned a Nintendo 64, being reasonably older than me. The two games they owned and played frequently were Mario Kart 64 and Super Mario 64. So my little 6 or 7 year old self watched in awe as the magic of Super Mario 64 was introduced to me for the very first time. So what was the first thing I would look up on YouTube? The all-new video sharing website that at the time had only just come out, where things like Keemstar and Jake Paul didn't exist. Super Mario 64 videos. And I was presented with a plethora of hacking and YouTube poop videos. Spaghetti! I was so fascinated by the game, particularly its graphics and the colourful worlds Mario traversed through. I needed to have this game. But how could I play it when I didn't know how to use emulators? Well, the answer was simple. Get the next best thing. When I got Super Mario 64 DS for my birthday, I literally never stopped playing it. I played it the second it was given to me, and rarely stopped until I had gotten all 150 stars. The DS version is just as good, if not better than the original game, as I had some new elements that made it its own standalone unique experience. It had a ton of extra content, particularly the mini-games you could play. I particularly liked the extra stages and bosses you had to go through to unlock the other characters. I don't think I've ever spent as many hours in a game as I have Mario 64 DS, as it was an absolutely amazing game. At the time, I figured it was better than the actual thing. You could play the game on the go whenever you wanted. Plus, you could play as other characters, Yoshi, Luigi, and Wario, and you had awesome new power-ups. Mostly awesome. It wasn't until literally 2 months ago as of this video that I got my hands on an actual Nintendo 64 and finally got to play the original game. And it's just as magical as I was hoping. Mario 64 has aged beautifully, and the graphics really add to the experience. I don't really know how to describe it, but I feel the game wouldn't be the same experience if the graphics were updated and as good looking as Mario games do today. Super Mario 64 isn't just an ordinary game. I am aware that nostalgia will be clouding most of my judgment, but the game truly is a wondrous experience, an adventure even. For Mario's first 3D outing, Nintendo absolutely nailed it, and it certainly isn't hard to see why people consider this one of the greatest games of all time. It's incredibly atmospheric, from the castle you begin the game in, to each and every single world you travel to. In that sense though, it makes you feel very alone. Unlike most Mario games, you're essentially all by your lonesome, with your only companions being sparse amounts of toads in Peach's castle, and this friggin' rabbit. Your quest is given to you almost immediately as you start the game, and then that's it. The game tells you Peach has been kidnapped yet again, and you need to save her. From there, you're on your own. It gives you sort of an uneasy feeling, especially when traveling into places like Hazy Maze Cave and... Not so much now, of course, but being a kid and exploring these areas was quite uncomfortable. Things like the depths of the castle, with the portal to Hazy Maze Cave, or the entirety of Big Boo's Haunt. You just need to look at the background of some levels. Where are you? Pretty much every level that wasn't enclosed had you in a void of nothingness, and if you fell off the edge, Mario plunged into the abyss. I mean, sure, you can just explain it away with the technological limitations requiring the developers to just place an image as the background, but when I was younger, it still creeped me out a lot. And it was because of these uneasy feelings that I found myself so fascinated with this game. Things in this game have genuinely traumatized me. These are, of course, pretty obvious. Chain Chomp at the beginning, the eel in Jolly Roger Bay, the piano. I have a permanent fear of water levels in games, and most especially eels. I don't think it's physically possible for me to explain how terrified I am of this thing, but I assure you I'm sweating while editing this. Also, the piano. We all know that piano. Does anyone realize the only reason Nintendo made this entire room was just to scare the shit out of people? Its only purpose is to hide a red coin. They made all this just to traumatize me. The DS version had some even creepier moments. What about the mystery door in the character select room? the one with nothing but the vague dialogue that you can never see inside of, or the complete white void in the room with the mirror. The game makes you feel incredibly alone, even if you're being followed by a lackey-do camera guy at all times. Which, on the topic of that, was an incredibly ingenious way to explain away these sometimes awful camera angles. Each and every level was so unique and different, and it was awesome revisiting them for the different stars to find that the layout changes to suit the aim of the level. It urged you to explore and learn every inch of every single world, all of which were distinct and awesomely designed. Though sometimes what you're actually supposed to do can be difficult to work out, nothing is more satisfying than finally getting that star. The game makes you feel like you've earned it, which is always an awesome feeling. I was fascinated by every aspect of this game. The layout of the castle, and the fact that you have to leap through paintings to get to levels, the hidden stars that filled you with so much joy every time you found them, and just the little things the game has that you really have to appreciate, such as the castle's exterior, or Yoshi being on the roof at the end of the game, among other things. It's the little secrets and added touches that make the game so special. As an example, did you know that in Wet Dry World, the higher you enter the painting, the higher the water level will be? How cool is that? Of course, the Bowser boss fights were great. It made you feel like an absolute boss every time you took him down, as if you were truly taking down a fearsome foe, even if actually getting to aim him was physically impossible. Each boss was slightly different from one another, each introducing a new mechanic to make the fight more difficult, but there was nothing more satisfying than finally throwing him into one of the mines. All of the levels feel so unique and vast, and there's so much for you to do in each. Every level has 6 stars to collect, which means you'll be returning to them a lot if you're wanting to collect all 120 stars in the game, but it doesn't ever feel like a chore. The level changes slightly depending on your goal, which keeps the experience fresh and unique each time, rather than feeling like backtracking. It's not required for you to get every star in each of the levels in order to progress in case you suck like me, but it means you get to spend a good amount of time in each of the levels, doing tasks that range from easy to how the hell was I supposed to know that was there. However, each of the levels are just so whimsical. Nothing quite beat the feeling of standing before a new painting in the castle, ready to hop into a brand new world and undertake all new challenges. I mean, sure, some of the names weren't exactly the most creative. Tall mountain, really. But they're also unique and individual, each one providing a different experience, and they were all quite daunting. They each have completely different moods to them. For example, the bright and happy Bob-omb Battlefield contrasting with the mysterious and haunting Hazy Maze Cave. Each level is so memorable and filled with plenty of challenges. There was so much to do in this game, not just within the courses themselves, which all had an extra 7th star should you collect 100 coins in each, just in case you ran out of stuff to do, but also plenty of secret stars hidden around the fantastically designed castle. Peach's Castle is my favorite hub world in any game I've ever played, thanks to the sensational layout, making each area unique. There are whole rooms designed for just one world, and it's astounding how much effort went into making it feel so genuine and exciting. There's just so much in this game, and it's so easy to miss. It was also an educational experience, as the game taught me how much I hated penguins. The controls are light to make you feel so free. Mario was able to do so much more than just move on a 2D plane. Mario could jump high, backflip, frickin' punch shit like he's some kind of kung fu master, butt stomp, and pelvis thrust his way to victory. I can only imagine how spectacular this would have been to people at the time, considering how fantastic I find it now, many years later. And I think the soundtrack of the game needs no introduction. I'm sure we can all agree that Super Mario 64 has one of the greatest soundtracks of all time, with ambient and atmospheric tracks that greatly immerse you in the game you're playing. The tracks are wildly different depending on which level you're in, with songs ranging from happy to fitting the theme of the level to... My favourite track of course has to be Dire Dire Docks and Jolly Roger Bay's theme, which is such a beautiful track. I don't really think I can describe in words how much I love this song, but I can tell you that it's a track that always makes me feel nostalgic for this game and sad because of it. This song has brought me to tears many times because of both sadness and happiness, but I absolutely cherish it. Despite how much I love this game, I am still aware it isn't perfect. The camera is an absolute bitch at times, and because the controller was designed by a freaking alien, many parts of the game become frustrating beyond belief. But it's not so much the game I love, but instead the memories I have from it. Whether that be from the DS version, or the memories of watching the game from a distance. It's not as charming a game as, say, Banjo-Kazooie when it comes to characters and story, but Mario 64 doesn't need it. The game had no need for proper story. Your goal was simple: collect the stars, defeat Bowser, and save Peach. That was all that was needed. Looking now on YouTube at some of the feats people have accomplished in terms of speedrunning is absolutely amazing. This is a game that people have played to death and are still playing even today, over 20 years later after it came out. Speaking of YouTube, I found my younger self obsessed with the L is real mystery that dominated the internet back in the day. You know, that whole gaming mystery where allegedly the game foretold a way to play as Luigi via this statue in the castle's garden. Which is completely bullshit, because there is no way in hell anyone can actually read what this says. It's hilarious looking back on how desperate people were to unlock Luigi due to the many rumors and fake screenshots floating around the internet. All completely bullshit and ludicrous methods of doing so. Like running around the castle carpet 1,000 times, or collecting 2,000 coins in total. None of them made sense, and yet so many people fell for it. People were obsessed with unlocking a character that wasn't even in the game, and this was many years after the game had come out. It was amazing how much people were dedicated to Super Mario 64. Still, it was things such as this that was circulating around YouTube in its infancy that made me so interested in the game in the first place. It's a massive game, impressive by even today's standards, and most especially for the time. It's clear a lot of love and effort was put into it, evident by how polished it is. I mean, have you seen the beta version? Can you imagine playing through the game and hearing this the whole time? Thank God someone at Nintendo had some common sense. Its influence clearly shows to this day, with modern and even current Mario games still taking influence from it. Its spiritual successor, Super Mario Galaxy, is just as good. Both Galaxy 1 and 2 are fantastic games, and feel like grander and more polished versions of 64, and though I admit Galaxy is more fun to play, I just feel that 64 overall is more special to me. However, it looks like we have a new challenger approaching. Oh, and the eels are back. Who knows, maybe Odyssey will be even better than 64. Shame that Nintendo's become a company filled with nothing but money-grubbing assholes. Thank you very much for watching the first episode of Cherished Forever, a brand new series that I hope will continue for longer than 2 months. If you enjoyed and want to see more, be sure to leave suggestions of what you want to see next. This is going to serve as like an anti-Ruin Forever, so it'll basically be the same premise in terms of what I'm talking about. So I'm happy to take suggestions of whatever you guys want. Anyway, hope you enjoyed and I'll see you guys in the next video. Diamond Bolt out.